Welcome to Counterpoint. I'm Tanya Granick-Allen. Have you ever received one of those annoying duct cleaning service phone calls? They're such a nuisance and seem to have spiked during COVID. Like many of you, as soon as I get one, I simply hang up, situation resolved. But have you ever received a knock from a door-to-door HVAC equipment rental salesman? Have you ever signed a contract only to discover at the time of selling your home that you had a lien? A lien for sometimes tens of thousands of dollars for equipment which cost only a few thousand. Sadly, this is the scam in which several Canadians find themselves embroiled, and one Ontario lawyer, Dennis Crawford, is fighting back, and he is with us in studio today to share with us his knowledge about these scams, what you can do to fight the liens, and how to avoid them in the first place. Welcome, Dennis. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks, Tanya. It's great to be here.
Now, I have to say, when I stumbled upon a news article in which you were featured and with one of your clients, hearing the story of the shock, the heartbreak, the financial burden, it was really disturbing to me. And so I have to really say thank you so much for stepping up. But how did you fall into defending, I guess, HVAC scam victims?
Sure. Well, working in a community law firm in Southern Ontario, I kept seeing clients come in who were ready to sell their house, and during the sale process, they would get this invoice from the company that they were renting their water softener from, or their furnace, or their hot water heater. And these invoices were for multiple times what this equipment was worth. These companies were saying, since you're selling, you have to buy out the hot water heater, and that'll be $11,000, please, or $15,000. I've seen them now in the $20,000, even some more than $30,000 to buy out rented home equipment. And I thought, well, this can't stand. This isn't a legitimate business model. Right. So I need to do some research here and find a way to help people fight back.
Wow. Well, again, kudos to you. I think you are becoming the Aaron Brockovich of Ontario, helping these victims do something about this. So how prevalent are these kinds of scams in Ontario? Because every jurisdiction in Canada is different, and you focus on Ontario because lien law on properties in Ontario is specific to Ontario. So how many victims are there out there?
There are thousands, and they're in every province, but Ontario has really been ground zero for this scam. Thousands and thousands. One law firm in Ontario started a class action against just one of these companies. And in that case, it was estimated that there were more than 12,000 customers with one of these HVAC contracts and one or more of these liens on their house.
That's shocking. 12,000, just one company.
And that was only one company.
Oh, later in the program, or next rather, we're going to be hearing from one of your clients who was a victim. But to kind of set the stage for this, and we're going to get into the nitty-gritty, but how are these companies allowed to do this in Ontario?
That's the real question. That's the beating heart of this scam, is these liens that they are allowed to register on title without the homeowner signing off on it and without the homeowner even being notified. So that's the real issue, because then they can use that leverage when the homeowner goes to sell their house. They have to delete the lien in order to sell their house.
They can't close otherwise.
Exactly. So they use that leverage to squeeze the homeowners for thousands or tens of thousands of dollars to buy out equipment that was maybe only worth $1,500 or $2,500.
My goodness. I just find this so disturbing. And of course, the stereotype is that a lot of these victims are seniors. Is that correct? A lot of them tend to be in the more higher age demographic?
Most, but not all. Another demographic that is, in my view, deliberately targeted by these companies are newcomers to Canada or anyone with language barriers.
Oh, that's disgusting.
Because then they can be susceptible to a high-pressure sales pitch. And they really feel the urgency in that moment. This salesman says, I have to change my water heater. It's dangerous. Oh, I'll rent one from them. I'm sure it'll be fine. And then down the road, they find out that it wasn't fine.
There has to be a very special place in hell for people who prey on vulnerable and weak. And we're going to unpack all of this. It's just, I'm just so shocked. So newcomers to Canada, and people come from jurisdictions all over the world where door-to-door sales isn't a thing. Then they come to Canada and they're excited to engage. My goodness. Anyhow, we're going to pick up this and hear from someone who was directly a victim in just a few moments. And now joining us via Zoom to share his story is James McNaught, an Ontario homeowner who found himself a victim of an HVAC scam. James, thank you so much for joining me today. And I know these things can be challenging to speak, but I think it's such a service for you to come on and share your story so that maybe other victims can be prevented from falling victim to these scams. So we've heard from your lawyer, Dennis Crawford. He spoke about in general of these scams, but what happened with you? How did you find yourself a victim of a scam? How did it happen?
This guy come to the door one day selling the new HVAC because he said mine was out of date. You no longer have the fluid that's in it was outdated, so you have to buy a new machine and all that through them, and that's what happened.
And did you know his company? Did you know this man before? Did he come in and inspect your HVAC unit, or was it outside and he could see it from there?
No, it was outside.
Okay, so he just came to your door and presented all this information as if it were fact, and maybe it was, but as if it were fact, and this is the situation, and I'm here to provide you a solution.
Yeah, that's about it. He come to the door, and I was stupid enough to listen to him.
Well, a lot of people aren't HVAC experts. I'm not. You probably aren't. So when someone says, oh, this is the problem and we've got a solution. Okay, so what did he sell you, or what was he trying to rent you?
The HVAC. It was, the air conditioning unit.
Like the outside air conditioning unit that buzzes in the summer, that kind of thing.
Exactly,
okay.
Yes.
And he was renting or selling it to you?
Renting.
Renting it to you. Okay, and what did you sign up for?
It was, I think it was back then, it was $90 a month. And that, give you lifetime warranty and all that. They would come and fix it if anything happened, free and all of this.
And with no end date, just $90 a month as long as you have the house?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, a lot of Canadians would say, hey, I don't want to have a headache of the air conditioning going off in the summer. That sounds like a good deal. But then what happened?
They come and took my old one away, which worked fine. But they took the old one out and put the new one in. And the thing never worked from day one. Really?
Never once?
It ran continuous for 3 or 4 days straight. And nothing got cool.
So then what did you do? You called to complain?
Oh, yeah. I called the day after it was installed, told them, I said, this thing is something wrong with it. I said, you got to come back and look at it, because I said, it should be, the house should be cooled down, and it's not. So they did come back a couple days later, and they told me that I was basically, I didn't know how to run it, and I was stupid, and left it at that.
And then you just parted ways and said, okay, I'm stuck with this bum unit, and you'll have to live with it.
My wife canceled the payments on it.
Okay.
So we never did. We only paid the one payment on it.
Right. So it was $90. Okay. And then you put a different unit in that probably worked, and then never thought about it ever again.
No. They kept sending me bills every month and calling me every other day for years afterwards.
Years?
Yeah. This was back in, I believe, June of 2015 that I got this machine put in. And I just got it resolved maybe a year ago.
Okay, but they did something to you. They put a lien on your house. How did you find out about that?
When I went to a lawyer actually Dennis, I come in and seen Dennis, and he checked into it. And when he called me back in the office, he said, you have 3 liens against your house.
And that was probably the shock of your life. You had no idea.
I had no idea I had any liens on my house.
Wow. And
All I knew is they sent me a letter and told me they were sending it through small claims court.
wow. And
That's
so
when
now
I-
you went from, you just wanted air conditioning to not only were they calling and harassing you, you were taken to small claims court for 3 liens.
Yes.
My goodness. How do you feel now that it's all done?
Well, I can finally sleep at night, you know. It's resolved and I don't have to bother with them guys anymore.
Welcome back. We just heard from a victim of one of these HVAC scams, and it's been resolved, so that's great news. But I want to unpack as to how this was allowed to happen, A, and B, how it was resolved and where he stands now. And joining me again in studio is Dennis Crawford, lawyer and head of OntarioHVACscam.com. And also, obviously, Dennis, the lawyer who represented Mr. McNaught. So he shows up to your office and says, you know, I want to get rid of this harassment, these harassing phone calls. They want $90 a month. They gave me a broken unit. It doesn't even work. And then you do research that he had 3 liens.
Well, I've seen this scam in action so many times, I immediately recognized it. And so I was pretty sure that he would have a lien on his property. I checked his title deed, and in his case, there were 3 liens. So I delivered the bad news to him. But in his situation, we were able to get those liens deleted and get the small claims court lawsuit against him dismissed, largely because the companies behind this scam had made, in his case, a procedural error. They had started 2 lawsuits in 2 different small claims courts, one in Stratford and one in Waterloo. Their staff and their paralegals weren't talking to each other, so they'd sued him twice for the same thing. In that case, we were able to use that to say to the court, look at how much of a scam this is. They're suing people. They registered 3 liens instead of 1. They started 2 lawsuits instead of 1. These guys don't know what they're doing. And we were able to get the cases thrown out and get those liens deleted. So it was a happy ending for Mr. McNaught.
And apparently he can sleep better at night as a result. So that's very, very important. Now, I suspect these procedural errors aren't all that common, and some folks aren't as lucky just to have the case thrown out.
Correct. Sometimes we have to go the distance and get in front of a judge, tell them the story and say, look, this just isn't fair. This water heater or this air conditioner isn't worth the $15,000 that's being claimed in this lien.
So how are they able to assess, and when I say they, these HVAC scammers, for lack of a better term, but how are they able to say, okay, your $90 a month rental, which you paid one $90 fee and then it was done, how are they able to put a lien on your house, A, and B, simply assign it some astronomical fee?
Yeah, that's the problem, because right now they can register one of these liens without the homeowner signing off and without even notifying the homeowner. And that's the problem, because people then, they don't know that it's on title. It's a loophole in the law, basically, and it's a loophole that they're exploiting. So they've discovered it. They realize it gives them a ton of leverage when the homeowner goes to sell. And so that's why it's very, very powerful and very lucrative for them. That's why they're doing it. But it's a loophole that should be closed. Right. And we need to ask the provincial governments why they haven't closed this loophole yet.
Okay, and this happened to Mr. McNaught in 2015. For how long have these kinds of scams been going on? Because you're saying closing a loophole, and I'm saying, well, why hasn't it been closed already? So for sure, since Mr. McNaught 2015, how long have clients been getting ripped off for?
Well, here in Ontario, where I practice, it really started picking up steam in the early 2010s. Okay. So we're looking at pretty much a decade of this scam flourishing in Ontario, and the provincial government in Ontario and in other provinces have done one thing. They've banned the door-to-door selling of most HVAC equipment, like furnaces, air conditioners, hot water heaters. But that was just a baby step, because what these companies have done since that ban on door-to-door selling. They've just switched to selling equipment which isn't banned. They're still going door to door, but instead of selling hot water heaters, they're now selling electrical optimizers and electrical surge protectors, even doorbell cameras.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And I assume they suspect that homeowners are just ignorant about technology and HVAC systems, because, a lot of us are, so that they'll just be sold into it, the salesman work?
Yeah, it's a high pressure and deceptive sales pitch. A lot of these companies are even saying that, renting from us will be cost neutral. It won't cost you anything because even though you're going to pay us $90 a month, you're going to save $100 a month on your utility bill, which is completely untrue. But for vulnerable seniors who might be on a fixed income, that can be a really attractive sales pitch.
Yeah, I can understand how it would be. I'm still interested to hear about the fine print and the details, and if there actually is bona fide fine print in the contracts. We're going to pick up this discussion when we return in just a few moments. Stick around. Welcome back. Have you ever been scammed with a door-to-door HVAC equipment salesperson? Perhaps another salesperson selling you something else that you thought you might need? Well, joining me in studio from OntarioHVACscam.com is lawyer Dennis Crawford. Dennis, before we went to commercial break, we were chatting about the door-to-door salespeople. Obviously, they have a contract. Somebody has signed something at some place, and obviously, I'm against scams and all that thing. But if someone signed a contract, isn't it buyer beware? Shouldn't people be reading the fine print?
Maybe if we're talking about making the monthly payments to rent this equipment. Okay, so you signed a bad deal, you're paying more than the equipment is worth. But where it goes beyond just buyer beware is when these companies are registering a lien on the house to secure their interest in the rented equipment, because that is something that the homeowners never know that they agreed to.
Right. And there is nothing in the contract that says failure to pay means that we will register a lien on your property?
Oh, no, they don't register the lien once you fail to pay. They register the lien on day one. That's the problem.
I see what you mean. My apologies.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Oh, right away. It's a scam from day one. It's not that we want your $90 a month. It's actually we want the lien.
It's not like a construction lien where you register when the customer isn't paying.
Right.
These liens are registered as soon as you sign the contract, before you've even missed a payment. Even if you never miss a payment, they register this lien on your house and it sits there like a mortgage.
So you've been scammed the moment that you let them in the front door, basically.
Exactly.
That's horrible. Horrible. Okay, so we were talking in the last segment that of how these sneaks, because really they're sneaks and scammers, how they're able to maneuver, they find loopholes within the system. You're dealing in the jurisdiction of Ontario, that's where you practice, so in Ontario. Why hasn't this changed? How can things get better? What can be changed?
All of this could be changed very easily by simply changing the regulations so that you cannot register one of these liens. In Ontario, they're called a notice of security interest. All you need to do is change the regulations so that you cannot register one of these without the homeowner also signing off on it. Just like we would do with our mortgage.
But what homeowner would ever sign off on a lien?
Exactly, which is why this business model that's based entirely on deception would shrivel up overnight. And these companies would have to switch to using legitimate marketing tactics.
No, but what I'm trying to say is, okay, say there is a legitimate case in which someone failed to pay for something, and this lien avenue exists for hopefully reputable situations, legitimate situations. What homeowner would ever sign off on a lien against their property? They'll say, I'm not going to pay, I'm not going to sign off anyways. So what recourse would there be for that company? Is there a way to amend things rather than just throw it out?
Yeah, I think we can amend it very simply by saying that you need the homeowner's permission, because remember, these liens aren't legitimate in the first place. The homeowner doesn't owe the money. They're current with their rental payments. Right. They haven't fallen into default. So why are you able to encumber their property? And then why are you able to squeeze them for a payment days before the sale of their house, that's multiple times what this equipment is worth.
To me, it sounds like that there has to be shown proof and registered in court. Like, here's the proof that there was non-payment, and then I can have a registered lien. But no, I see what you're saying. How big are some of these? Once you, for example, with Mr. McNaught here, you successfully had them thrown out, but he obviously incurred legal fees for this. Those he'll never recover. All that stress and time he'll never recover. Is there ever any way to sue the company for damages?
Yes. Although traditionally, it has been very expensive to take these companies on in court and sue them, which is why I started Ontario HVACscam.com to give homeowners a more affordable option to take these companies on in court and get these liens deleted.
Okay. So there may be viewers out there who don't know they have a lien on their property. They may now go quickly do a title search and find out they have a lien on their property they didn't even know existed. Maybe they didn't even sign anything. Who even knows any longer? This sounds also shady. What should people do and where should they go if they want to get in touch with you, if they want to explore if they have a lien on their property? What do you suggest?
Yeah. Well, if you live in Ontario, go to ontariohvacscam.com. But wherever you live in Canada, talk to your lawyer before you sign an agreement to sell your house.
Okay, because once you've signed that agreement, it becomes more challenging?
Exactly.
My goodness. Dennis, thank you so much. I appreciate your time today. OntarioHVACscam.com. Who knew that was a thing?
Thank you so much. My pleasure.
Thank you.